Hey, everybody. It is Friday. Welcome to 49ers Fridays. I'm Jack Hammer, your host from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. And joining me today is everybody's favorite YouTube sensation, Sports Illustrated's Grant Cohn. Grant, thanks for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I used to be at the Press Democrat too. There's some serious heavy hitters that come through the Press Democrat. Mike Silver, Matt Mayoko, Eric Branch. So Jack Hammer is the next in a long line of serious Big J journalists. So anyway, I'm just saying, good job, Jack. Honored to be here.
Thanks. Some big shoes to fill. That's for sure over there. Definitely. And it's not something that I don't
You're doing a great job.
Realize.
Jack is kicking ass, by the way. Sorry to curse on your show. He's doing a great
job. That's okay. We're gonna have a good show today. I think we might even have some more cursing as this thing goes along, because there's been a lot of news today with the 49ers and in the NFL in general, really more than anything. Thoughts on Deshaun Watson? He ends up in Cleveland, and that was, I think, the last place anybody expected him to land.
Yeah, it seemed like he was in the process of naming his destination. And then the Niners, there was that report from Jim Trotter, like, well, if Deshaun goes to Cleveland, goes to Houston and says, there's only one place I want to go, maybe they could get him. Well, it seemed like he accommodated Houston just fine. Like, Houston got the highest bidder. And Deshaun said, sure, I'm happy to go to Cleveland, I guess. I mean, it's a good team, but it's still Cleveland. I'm surprised. But they're a contender with him. They could win the Super Bowl with him.
Yeah, I think they can. I think it's a good move for him. I find it funny because, it was one of those things where Cleveland's out of the running was the report 2 days ago, or yesterday morning, and then you hear Baker Mayfield, requests a trade. He wants out. The Browns tell him, no, you're not being traded. And then this morning, right around lunchtime, it breaks that it's going to be Cleveland after all. It's like that. What is it? What is that saying? They're throwing you out, but all of a sudden, just when you think you're out, they reel you back in. And that's really what they've done here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, wasn't there a report a few days ago that Deshaun had ruled out Cleveland as a destination?
Yeah, yes, there was. There was a report that he had ruled them out. And then that's when the report broke that Baker Mayfield had requested a trade. And then within 5 minutes of it being reported that he requested a trade, there was a report on
this is fishy to me
that the Browns said, no, we're not trading you.
This is fishy to me. See, to me, Deshaun wanted to go to Atlanta, and Houston got the best offer from Cleveland, and Cleveland got what it wanted. I don't know. Maybe they had some leverage over Deshaun Watson. Deshaun's had a tough last 12 months, so maybe he just felt like, you know what? Instead of going to war with the Texans, let's just give them what they want and get the hell out of town. Maybe that's what he wanted. He's like, fine. If Cleveland it is. Maybe he just capitulated.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah. The Browns have an offense that I think suits them, right? They kind of have a Kyle Shanahan-esque system.
Better team than Atlanta.
Better team. Yeah, he has better weapons there, I believe, than he did in Atlanta. I think that's a team that was close. 2 years ago, they were close. Last year, they dealt with Mayfield being injured a bunch, so that's, I think, slowed them down a little bit. I think they're a team that can contend right away. The AFC, what are they in the AFC North? That division isn't all that great. Baltimore had a down year. Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback.
They got Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
There you go.
They got Amari Cooper. They no longer have Jarvis Landry, but he's kind of old. And Odell Beckham Jr.'s been off that team, but it's still they still have Nick Chubb. Good team. David Njoku.
Yeah, no, they have a really good team. So it was just came out of nowhere. It's kind of cool. In terms of Watson going to Cleveland, how do you think that impacts everything with Jimmy Garoppolo? And we're going to get into him a little bit more, but just this trade in particular, do you think there's an impact that this move has with Garoppolo, or is it like everything else? There's multiple dominoes.
I think so. I mean, Matt Barrows reported that it's Indianapolis and only Indianapolis as far as trade markets for Jimmy Garoppolo. I believe Matt Barrows. He's very connected. And now, according to Ian Rappaport, Indianapolis is a prime destination, quote unquote, for Baker. So it seems to me like Baker requesting a trade is something that the Niners couldn't have prepared for. Like 2 weeks ago, you never would have seen that coming. And it seems like it's going to bite him. That Baker is going to be a couple of weeks ago, I was basically taunting Niners Twitter online saying, the Colts should get this guy or this guy. But every time they can be like, well, Derek Carr's not available or Kirk Cousins. And I really didn't have anything. Now, out of nowhere, it's Baker. And I think the Niners couldn't plan for it. And this is really throwing a monkey wrench in their plans, which is why, sometimes plans don't work out. Sorry.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll get into that. We'll get into that one right now in a second. But real quick, David, thank you for the donation. He says he went to Cleveland for the guaranteed money period because it's $230 million guaranteed. All of it's guaranteed. You don't see that very much in the NFL, but 230
How did I miss
full,
that? So he got
fully
the Kirk
guaranteed.
Cousins deal.
Pretty much 230 fully guaranteed. It's like 80 million more than the next closest guarantee. So it's big money for him.
That's going to be Kirk Cousins' legacy to the NFL. The fact that he introduced those type of contracts. Him, Kirk, the most mediocre quarterback there's ever been, is going to get people like Deshaun Watson super duper duper rich. So good for Kirk and good for Deshaun.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said he's mediocre because that fits right in with I don't feel like he's a whole lot different than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's better than him maybe a little bit, but there's not a big difference between the two, especially when you start to look at the money that one's making. Right. And you kind of got into this a second ago, but did the 49ers misfire with Jimmy Garoppolo? And it sounds to me like you think so.
I think they did. I think it's probable that they had an opportunity to trade him before Deshaun Watson got cleared. That's when Indianapolis traded Carson Wentz, and they took the 2 3s. It's been reported the Niners had a second round. I mean, John Middlecoff said that he heard the Niners had a second round pick offer on the table. They probably should have taken it because once Deshaun Watson got cleared, all hell broke loose, and a lot of things that I don't think the Niners anticipated happened, or one big one, which is the Baker Mayfield. Like Baker Mayfield requested a trade because he was offended that the Browns. It's like no one saw that coming. So. And no one saw the Browns actually being in the market for Deshaun Watson. Like, no one anticipated that. So, yeah, I think the Niners misfired because they probably could have got something for him 2 weeks ago. And now I don't see, unless they can get a team like New Orleans or Carolina to come in at the 11th hour, which I'd be surprised. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that they did misfire on this one. I think that you're right. This is something that should have been done. They did not know that what was coming up down the road with Deshaun Watson and holding on to him, not making a move. And at that point, once Deshaun Watson comes back onto the market, everything's changed from where they thought they were in a week and a half ago. They're in a completely different spot. And there's a number of teams that he could go to. It's just, I don't know where he's, I don't know going to Carolina, that Carolina doesn't have the mid-round picks that the 49ers are looking for, in that second and third round because of the moves that they made last year. Does New Orleans end up choosing to go with him over Jameis Winston, or does Jameis Winston choose to go somewhere else other than New Orleans? I mean,
right now it sounds like Winston's probably going back there right now.
Correct. That's what it sounds like. That's the talk, right? And then the other thing to think about here too is that, they're Atlanta, now that once Atlanta lost, they said that they're still out on Deshaun Watson. They said that they're still going to give Ryan through, the weekend to make up a decision on what he wants to do. So does Matt Ryan end up forcing out his way out of Atlanta as well? Could that be a move that happens? He wouldn't end up in Carolina, but he could end up in one of these other spots.
Yeah, and that would just be more bad because it's like the Niners told themselves that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be the most sought after quarterback on the market at some point. And at that time, they could get what they wanted for him. It never happened. It still hasn't happened. Like Baker's next. And if it's not him, it could be Matt Ryan. And that's really how the Niners misfired. They thought there would be a moment when Jimmy Garoppolo was the most sought after quarterback in the market, and it never happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's going to be wild to think that they might not get anything for him. I don't think they're going to cut him, but no. It's wild to think that they might end up with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back into camp this year. That's just
when Adam Schefter said it last month. No, everyone got mad at him, but I think that's where this is heading. I think the Niners have made it clear. If they weren't willing to trade him for like 1 second round pick 2 weeks ago, you think they're all of a sudden just going to cut him? I think they're showing that they would take this to the end of the earth. They're going to take this till the end. I mean, they're going to let his contract expire and get the comp pick and somehow spin it as a positive. And to me, I think it's a big freaking mistake. I don't know. I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but yeah, they misfired with Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, real quick, going back to Carson Wentz in the Colts. If they hadn't traded Carson Wentz when they did, would he might be on their team right now. If they try to, all of a sudden, if they had Carson Wentz when Deshaun Watson got cleared, who knows what Washington would have done? Maybe Washington would have turned their attention to Deshaun Watson. It's like everything would have been on hold. They were smart to deal him when they did, I think.
Yeah, no, they got ahead. They were out there ahead of the curve. Sometimes, it's better to strike first than later. That's, Bill Walsh did that on the football field all the time, and you do it a lot of times in the draft as well. Nobody would have an idea what was going on, and he'd make all these moves. And next thing you know, he ends up with a boatload of picks and has a great draft like he did in E6 and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's a tough situation for the 49ers to be in with Garoppolo. I've been trying to be patient with the whole process, we go through our film breakdowns of Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And I always talk about how instead of getting upset with a missed throw in the beginning of a drive, it's like, let's see how this thing finishes out before we
just crushing him in the first quarter. Yeah.
Right. Or even just on a driving period, right? Like he might miss a throw on first down, but then the drive ends up in a touchdown and people are still mad about the miss on first down. And
that's true.
So I've been trying to keep that mindset as we've gone through free agency and really, I've been struggling with that today with everything that's been going on because I just don't see a way that they're going to get out of this with moving Garoppolo. And maybe they don't need to get the money for him. At this point, maybe they don't need to because maybe they don't have anywhere to give the money anyway.
I think what's troubling about this is that it's so obvious that they miscalculated. Like they thought they didn't see this Baker Mayfield thing coming. They thought they had Indianapolis. They thought they had the leverage. And now it's like Indy, oh my God, would you take him for a sixth? Please take Jimmy Garoppolo. And they're like, actually, we're going to go for Baker. And that's the tables turned in a way that the Niners didn't. That's troubling from a fan's perspective. Like your plan was just blew up in your face. And so now you're going to go to some plan B. And it could be even better. Maybe plan B is better than plan A, but it's not what you wanted to do. And how are you going to sell it? How are you going to spin it? It's very interesting. Because I think he's coming back on this team. And if he comes back on this team, that means he's probably starting. And that means you're just going to run it back from last year without Laken Tomlinson, without DJ Jones, without Jaquaski Tart. Yes, with Charvarius Ward, but I'm not sure this team is better than it was last year. And very, very strange. This could be a weird year. And as you pointed out, Kyle has not had back-to-back winning seasons ever. So this could be like 2020 all over again. Ooh.
It really could, and especially when you start. It's funny because before the Deshaun Watson thing went down today, I was looking at their schedule and when it looked like he was going to go to Atlanta or New Orleans, because the 49ers play both those teams next year. When you start to look at the quarterbacks that the 49ers have on their schedule for the home games in particular, that's a brutal home schedule when it comes to the quarterbacks that are going to be coming into Levi's this year. There's some very good ones there because they still get Russell Wilson, they have Derek Carr, they have Patrick Mahomes. The 49ers schedule when it comes to what they're going to face at quarterback, Matthew Stafford, it's stacked. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really stacked.
Herbert on the road. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Herbert comes to Levi's.
Wow. Oh wow.
Yeah. Herbert and Mahomes are at Levi's, and then you've got Miami coming in with Tua and that whole group. I just think that team's going to be really good in Miami this year. They were good last year. I think the 49ers have a really tough road.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the Niners know they misfired?
I think that they probably feel like they probably. I bet you the way that they do business, if you were to ask them, they would tell you that they had all of this planned out and it was always a possibility. Yes.
Yeah.
Do they feel like they misfired? I would hope that they feel like they've maybe miscalculated on this thing because it's not trending in the direction that anybody thought it was going to.
No.
It's really, to be honest with you, the only person who when it first came out and I first saw it, I laughed was when Jose from Sports Illustrated wrote the article about the 49ers cutting Jimmy Garoppolo. I laughed about it at first, but the more that this played out, especially once you heard about the shoulder, that whole article that he wrote is a little bit more definitely shows a lot more strength than it did when the people thought when it first came out.
They could justify it. The only question is, will they have the cojones to do it? Because really, that's what it comes down to.
That's right. Do they have did they have the cachet to go up to Judge York, say we screwed this up and we need to release him? I think that's
what it is. Jed, we promised. We overpromised. We overpromised big time.
Yeah, and we missed, and all kinds of bad things happened as a result. And even going into free agency, let's talk a little bit about free agency and what's gone on. We'll get back into the quarterbacks here in just a second, but
yeah.
Buy or sell? Do you buy or sell the 49ers moves so far throughout free agency?
I sell them big time. I feel like I really don't understand what the Niners think they're doing here. It seemed to me that this is a team that was this close to winning the Super Bowl last year, and we felt they were going to finally commit to a quarterback and go all in. Trey Lance. But they still haven't done that. They still have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. They still haven't maximized the cap space, all of it. And it's like, it's not that they're a bad team. They're an excellent team. But I feel like they had a clear mission, a clear objective this offseason. Become the best team in the league. And they didn't. Like they're treading water. They got Charvarius Ward, great. But they also lost some starters too. And I don't know. I mean, are they better than the Rams? I don't know. Are they? There's a number of teams in the AFC that I think are better than them. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let me ask you this real quick. Who do you, since you said that you sell, who do you think the 49ers missed out on that would make them better than where they are right now?
It's like, I mean, Charvarius Ward is good. J.C. Jackson's better. Yeah, okay. They could have taken the money that they gave to Ray McLeod, George Odom, and Charvarius Ward, those three guys, and just spend it on someone who makes a real impact. Because as good as Charvarius Ward is, the Chiefs just chose Justin Reed over him, and we're right. I'd rather have Justin Reed than Charvarius Ward. So I thought they said they were interested in J.C. Jackson. They said they were interested in Chandler Jones. They said they were interested in Frank Clark. I thought the Niners were about to do a 2019. In 2019, when they felt they were on the cusp, they didn't mess around. They traded for D Ford and then extended him. And then they signed Quan Alexander. And then when they were freaking undefeated at the trade deadline, they were like, it's not good enough. Let's get Emmanuel Sanders too. That was quite an all-in move, and they arguably should have won the Super Bowl that year. This year, we're looking at it like, man, you were just in the NFC Championship game. Do 2019 again. Make your two, and you were interested in J.C. Jackson. You were interested in Chandler Jones. You could have got him if you had just traded Jimmy Garoppolo 2 weeks ago. You could have done it, but they didn't. And it was like, well, then why were you interested? You're telling me you went from being interested in all the best players in free agency to just settling with the fourth best corner and special teams upgrades? Like, I'm sorry. You really got my expectations up on that one. Now I'm looking like, okay, fine. So you're just going to wait a year, see what you got with Trey Lance and Talanoa Hufanga and Aaron Banks, and then make your move next year. All right, that's so conservative. That's extra conservative. Like, everyone's saying the Niners are trying to emulate the Chiefs, what they did with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. What they did was trade Alex Smith first thing that offseason and then use that cap space to bring in Sammy Watkins and actually surround their young quarterback with the best team possible. And the Niners are still in this area where they're like, here's the way I look at it. Even last year, if they had committed to one or the other, say they committed to Jimmy, they could have extended his contract, made him cheaper, signed players, drafted Micah Parsons, probably won the Super Bowl. Or they could have, after getting Trey Lance, traded Jimmy, used the cap space, bring in a couple more impact players, probably win the Super Bowl. But the fact that they didn't commit to either quarterback, I think is a major reason that they came up this short. And they're going to do it again, Jack. They're going to freaking do it again. Like, learn from your mistakes, man. No other team would do this, but you are. And you still think it's the right thing to do. Where's Eddie? I mean, I miss Eddie D. Eddie D would have stepped in and been like, this is crazy. This is what we're going to do. He was a leader, and he wasn't hands off all the time. Jed's just like, yo, whatever you guys say. I'm chilling. I don't want to be the bad guy here.
Yeah. No, that's it. And as far as me with buy or sell, I'm struggling with this one because there's certain parts of it that I want to buy because there's certain things that make sense with what they're doing, and there's certain pieces of me that are saying sell as well. And we're going to get into it a little bit. We can get into it here now. And part of the reason why I say sell is because if you had moved on from Garoppolo and you had the $25 million in cap space, you could have been a player for any of these guys that we're talking about. Because I know J.C. Jackson has huge money for in the first 2 years, but you could have spread it out or done it differently if you wanted to bring J.C. Jackson in. And I think the biggest thing when you look at where the 49ers are right now is the salary cap it's going to go up next year, but it really explodes the following year. So if you could have gotten yourself a couple of guys on 5-year deals where you give them small deals, the first couple, and then year 3, it jumps up because there's like a $70 million jump. If you look at it from 2023 to 2024, it's huge. And the 49ers are using some of that with their extensions that they've already made, but they're going to need to do it again. And I think that's why, like with Bosa, it makes sense not to give Bosa a new contract this year. It makes sense to push Bosa into next year and get Bosa's deal done next year so that it starts to hit with the increase of the cap and you can take advantage. There's lots of reasons for that. Same thing a little bit with Debo Samuel. So I'm kind of in the sell mode on I wish that I do feel like there was a need to maybe make one or two more moves, like maybe a right tackle, because Michael McGlinchey, for what it's worth, Michael McGlinchey is not probably going to be your starter opening day.
Yeah.
And so that's where I am on the sell. On the buy side, I feel like they've addressed a position. They've addressed one of the biggest issues that they had last year that kept them from. I'm not going to say it kept them from going to the Super Bowl, but
yeah.
And part of the reason why I can't say that they have is because Jimmy Garoppolo is still here.
Yeah.
If Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't here, then we would know for certain that they are addressing the things that have kept them and held them back.
It's like the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is still here. It's like if their number one goal this year was to win the Super Bowl, he wouldn't be on this team right now. So what's their number one goal? Their number one goal is to remain in the mix. They're still an excellent team, to remain right there, but also look at the future. We got to think about these draft picks we could get for Jimmy Garoppolo. That's honestly what it's about, right? Like a day 2 pick this year, maybe, and a day 2 pick next year, maybe. Like, who cares? But that's what they're thinking about. That's just as important to them as whatever cap space they could have had this week. That's crazy to me. It's the NFC Championship team.
See, and that's the argument that keeps kind of getting me frustrated with it, where they're not moving, is because they could have really, because if they could have pulled in a free agent, one big free agent signing. I understand Charvarius Ward's probably going to be an upgrade at cornerback, as long as you stop asking him whack-ass questions.
Hey, I'll do my part. I will do my part. I'm not a fan of whack-ass questions. I'm just saying. Not pointing any fingers.
Yeah, I'm not going to point any fingers either, because I think I have a good idea where some of those.
Maybe he didn't like being asked about being a slot corner. That's fair.
Well, I think he liked your question. I really do. I thought there were a couple. It was there was a couple of football related questions. I think he's talking about the ones that weren't football related, but we'll leave that for another conversation.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I feel like, if they just maybe another pass rusher. I like Samson Ebukam, but hey, how about one guy, a stud guy that you can use, maybe that can replace him, or maybe a stud defensive tackle that you can fit in there instead of having to stick with Javon Kinlaw, because Javon Kinlaw has shown that he's not a very good. He's a good, maybe, he's a middling on a lot of different things that he's doing.
He ain't Fletcher Cox, who's available right now.
There you go. And he's not a player like that. So
in 2019, they would have made those moves, but in 2021, in 2022, they're not. And I'm just saying, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be a 2019 final push, but I think what they're looking is, I think they're just being a little conservative here. They're like, well, we don't know what we have in our quarterback, and other teams are maybe next year's a better time to make I don't know. Like, to me, the NFL, I had a stream with Vish earlier today, and he made a lot of these points. He's way smarter than me, but it's like, you're really planning deep in the future. The NFL is a week-to-week proposition. Like, look at the Harbaugh's team. They went from having the best team in the league to Navarro Bowman's knee getting blown out, Willis retiring at 30, and Alden Smith's life falling apart at 24. Like, that happened real fast. So are you sure this team is going to be great in 2 years? I mean, it could be, but it's football. Have some. I mean, I'm just saying.
I just had this conversation with my son about the San Jose Sharks and how they've fallen off, after having some. It's a similar thing with the 49ers. It's where the San Francisco Giants were like in 15 and 16, right? They had kind of kept sticking with their older guys. The younger guys they were trying to bring in weren't filling up the gaps and weren't playing up to the same potential as the older guys who were now not quite as good as they had been in the past. And that's kind of what gets teams. And right now the 49ers are in that position where they have a good nucleus, but they're just not getting over the hump. And it's a Moneyball approach in a lot of ways is what I'm seeing from them.
Yes, and look, Moneyball has had its benefits for the 49ers the last 20 years. But it's like, when you're on the cusp, you need to look at what the ultimate goal is. And right now it's winning the Super Bowl. And there's going to be some things that you would need to do to get over the hump that are going to be against your Moneyball philosophy, and they're worth it. The way I look at it is like, the Niners it's like going shopping with a shopping list and a budget and being real strict about it. That's the Niners. We have this much we're going to spend, and we're not going to make impulse buys. But they could really benefit from one right now. Like, go get a Chandler Jones. Go get a J.C. Jackson. And you know what? You'll pay for it down the line, but it'll feel real good when you got that ring on your finger. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about. Ask the Rams. They're not tripping about 3 years from now. They got rings on their fingers. They'll figure it out. That's what you could do. But the Niners are just not willing to make that. Although they did 2 years, they did it in 2019. That's what gets me. They've done it before. Why did they decide this wasn't the year to do it? Because Trey isn't proven enough. They did it after Jimmy had started freaking 8 games. 8.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rams are going all in, and they're going all in again. They went out and they everybody laughs about them and their salary structure or whatever. They just went out and signed Allen Robinson, I believe is who was the receiver from Chicago, and he's a darn good receiver. Meanwhile, the 49ers went out and signed Ray McLeod. I'm sure those 7 yards per reception that he has as a receiver are going to really help out the 49ers offense.
And it's like, look, it happened last night, and I put my video up immediately just making fun of it. And it's like, it's nothing against Ray. He could be fine. It's nothing against the I'm not saying they overpaid for him, but it's like, what are we supposed to say now? Okay, Super Bowl, there it is. Just give the Niners the Lombardi Trophy. Like, wasn't that the goal? I guess not. I guess the Niners are saying, you know what? We're in the mix. Funny things happen. Teams can get hurt. We're going to give ourselves a chance, but we're not going. That's as far as we'll go. That's as far as we'll go.
Yeah, $10+ million for 2 years for a receiver who hasn't shown the ability in 4 seasons to make big plays as a receiver. That's a lot of money if you're only expecting him. I understand the help he might bring on special teams, but I mean that's a lot of money that you're spending right there.
I mean, you're paying a lot for those 2 end arounds a game he's going to run. That's what the 2 end arounds and maybe a screen. That's it.
Yeah, for how much he touched the ball.
Yeah.
And real quick, Aaron comes on with a $5. I really don't like this one, but he says, Grant, I agree 100% on everything you're saying.
Well, Zach and I have pretty much agreed on everything so far.
We're not too far off, not too far off at all. And one of the fun things about having you on and talking with you and doing this with you is we've been doing this for 10, 11 years. Going back to when you were doing the Press Democrat, and you'd block me after a while when if I started to become a jerk or whatever.
I was immature.
Well, yeah,
I was 25.
You were 25. I was whatever, but I think we're still. You start arguing over football. Sometimes you get stupid.
Absolutely. Usually, like when you write about it too, it's Twitter, any type of forum. It gets. I don't know. You can't see someone's face. You can't see someone smiling when they're doing it, and it just gets really serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really easy to take a joke or something like that as like a dig at you. It's definitely something that comes across that way more often. And let's jump over to another one because you've kind of mentioned your stance on this one as well. And we're going to have a little bit of a disagreement on this one. So buy or sell, 49ers believe they are contenders with Trey Lance coming into 2022.
I mean, I think they're contenders. Like they're one of the best teams in the league. They have a very good roster, but. I mean, they didn't go to the Super Bowl last year. They didn't make a Super Bowl appearance. And for them to think that they can just bring in Charvarius Ward, lose a bunch of starters, and go to Trey Lance, and things will be. It seems like they're just kind of leaving it up to chance at this point. Like they know they're top, maybe a top. I'd rank them from 5 to 10 in the league. A top 10 team for sure. Maybe they're the 6th best team in the league right now. I think that's where they rank in terms of Super Bowl odds. Although the Deshaun Watson thing might change it. 6 or 7. Okay. I don't think they made the big push to be number 1. So are they contenders? Yeah, for sure. They were contenders last year. I think they're definitely contenders with Trey Lance. But if they thought that they had a legit chance to win the Super Bowl, I think they'd be making bigger moves. I think they'd be making bigger moves is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that should have been the way that I phrased the question, is that do the 49ers believe they can win this? They can get to and win the Super Bowl with Lance?
See, to me, I think the answer is, sure, if, because you never know what could happen in sports, and they'll be in the playoffs, and all you got to do is give yourself a chance. But I think if they had to bet on it, probably they'd be like, probably not. As crazy as that is to say. Again, if they thought that they were what did the Chiefs do with Patrick Mahomes' first year as a starter? They weren't like, he's young and we don't really know about him. We'll wait a year, see what we have, and then go all in next year. They didn't do that. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
yeah, no, and on this one, I'm gonna disagree. I'm going with a buy on this one. Okay. I feel like the 49ers believe that they can win the Super Bowl with Lance, and if you believe that the upgrade from Garoppolo to Lance is enough to push them over the top, if that's the direction that you feel, then I think that you buy this, because the 49ers haven't lost a whole lot, and I mean, they've lost DJ Jones, but DJ Jones only plays 51% of the snaps. I think they can kind of fill in what they're going to fill up what they missed with him. Left guard is going to be a little bit more of a question mark if it's
See, that's
Aaron
where I was
Banks
going. That's where I was
or
going.
which direction they go. But here's the thing, though: the 49ers seem to have they just have so many offensive linemen, and they've had success with guys who you wouldn't expect.
It's true.
I mean, they got in 2019 they were really good. Even without Joe Staley when he was out, and this year without Mike McGlinchey, they go 7-2 into the championship game. And all the way along, the whole thing for me is if Trey Lance is the guy, that everybody expects him to be,
he is. Yeah.
then it's a buy. If Trey Lance is the guy, because everything else really about the 49ers is the same as where they were. They've gotten better on special teams, which killed them, lost them a couple games. Also won them a game in the playoffs, but it cost them a couple of games during the regular season. But I just feel like, and I was putting a lot on Trey Lance's shoulders, but I believe that I think the fact that they have Lance is part of the reason why they're not making a big move.
Fair. Look, in 2019 and 2021, I think were 2 seasons the Niners thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. And the way they acted in those years were they didn't really trust young guys to play very much. They basically went with vets as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Especially last year. I mean, last year they were very Aaron Banks couldn't even be a backup last year. They didn't trust him. He was inactive a large portion of last year. Now he's penciled in as a starting left guard. See, to me, that's what I'm looking at. Trey Lance is the fact that they're cool. I don't think if they saw themselves as the Super Bowl favorites, would they trust that? Would they trust Aaron Banks to be a starter in that? To me, they would be looking at proven vets to take over these positions, but they're not. All of a sudden, Talanoa looks like he's going to start. Diamador could be the nickel. Banks could be the left guard. This almost feels like they're like a youth movement. And it's like this team might have gotten worse. Travarius Ward is an upgrade, but otherwise, I don't know. I mean, what if Javon Kinlaw's knee's still messed up? This team there's a lot of question marks where they weren't comfortable with those kind of question marks last year at all. They're like, we need Josh Norman. We need a vet. Now they're like, Diamador, you're good. Aaron Banks, you got it. What changed?
Yeah.
What changed?
Yeah. No, and I'm with you. I think the only reason I believe in Banks a little bit is because we both liked Banks when we saw his film, and he struggled last year. I think part of it was moving to the right side. It's a big jump up going from Notre Dame to the NFL. If he moves back to the left side, I think that's going to help him out a little bit. I think part of the reason why he didn't play last year was because he got hurt right away, and so that hurt his development as well. So he just that injury in the Chiefs preseason game threw everything off for him. I'm giving some excuses for the guy. Sure. So I'm hoping that he can come back and be on the defensive side though.
Talanoa.
Again,
yeah,
that's for me of the changes is if they go ahead and they stick with Talanoa Hufanga as the safety opposite Jimmy Ward. That's a bigger question mark for me than the loss of DJ Jones.
I'm with you.
Because DJ Jones, the moves that they've made, the guys that they've been bringing in, I don't know if you've noticed, but I think they're a little bit better pass rushers. They're not as good run defenders, but they're better in the pass rush. So I think their pass rush is going to help out a little bit. But I'm not big on Hufanga being a deep guy.
They know that Tart is better than Hufanga. That's why Tart played over Hufanga down the stretch. They tried to make it like a timeshare, but Tart was just better, and they went with Tart. To just be like, okay, we're going to go with the inferior player because he's younger. What is that saying? What is that? So to me, I don't know. They're willingly taking a step back at a few positions, which is strange if they consider themselves the best. Is that how much better than the rest of the league they think they are?
Yeah, I mean, wow. They might feel like they're that much better than the rest of the NFC. It might just because right now the way that the NFC is starting to shake out, it looks like it's going to be
them and the Rams.
The Niners and the Rams are really becoming the best two teams because everybody else is falling apart.
Maybe the Bucks too. Those 3 teams.
Yeah,
maybe the Bucks. Yeah.
One move that I would like to see them do. We've been thinking of that they're going to maybe pick up another tight end. Austin Hooper was a name that had been out there that we were thinking that they were going to pick up, and he's not coming to the 49ers. He signed with somebody else today. What receivers are out there? Do you think that they might? Do you think there might be a way that because I don't think Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to be coming to the 49ers now either with Green Bay trading away Devontae Adams. Is there a receiver that could come in and help out this offense? Because they need another receiver. I like Ray McLeod as a punt returner, but I don't kickoff returner, but I don't want him playing receiver on a regular basis.
Well, there was Juju. He just went to the Kansas City Chiefs, another team that's
right.
making a big, strong push. And I think the last guy that a lot of people like, Julio Jones.
There we go.
For me, I'm against it, but I'm also the guy campaigning to trade George Kittle because he's almost 29. I mean, Julio Jones is 33. Julio Jones has missed half of the last 2 seasons. And if you look, zero wide receivers in their 30s had more than 1,000 yards last year. So just at his age is why I pause. And the fact that this year is supposed to be not historically good, but an unusually good crop of wide receivers in the draft. I'd like to take advantage of that. If you could get a starting level wide receiver and a deep threat in round 3, got to take advantage of that if it's that deep.
Yeah, if they can, because that's definitely that group really seems like there's some speed in that group from this year, from the combine, and some talent at the wide receiver spot. So I'm with you there. For me, Julio Jones, if you can get Julio Jones on a team friendly deal, I think it's smart to go do it. One of the things, I know he's old, he's maybe slowing down, but when you go back to 2012 when the 49ers brought in Randy Moss.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody brought this up on Twitter a couple of days ago and said, so it made me think about it. And so I went back and, they've both averaged around the same number of, in their career, about the same number in terms of yards per reception. They're both like 15 and a half, right, throughout their career. In 2010, which was Moss's last season before joining the 49ers, because he was out in 11, that year he averaged 14 yards per reception. Last year, Julio Jones in Tennessee, 14 yards per reception. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those statistical oddity things, but it's like,
that's cool.
But when Moss came to the 49ers, he wasn't a big player, right? He was like 500 yards receiving that year, but he had some big catches and he was a big time. He's a good player opposite with the way that they ran their system. And I could see Julio Jones, if they bring him here, I think I'd like to see him be your number 3 receiver over Juwan Jennings.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and maybe that's why you're not seeing the 49ers make a move for tight end 2, is because if it's going to be Julio, because you can kind of use Juwan Jennings in that tight end 2 role in terms of your pass routes and maybe even blocking a little bit inside because he's so tough.
Well, one way I look at it is I really think that Debo Samuel's usage as a running back is going to only increase. I think he's just getting started with this role. And I think he's going to be their leading rusher next year. Maybe not in terms of carries, but in terms of yards. I think he's going to get more than 100 carries next year. And I think they're probably going to need a starting caliber wide receiver. Because right now it's Ayuk and Debo. But Debo's a running back now. He's going to get catches too, like Roger Craig did. And he's going to play some wide receiver. But he's going to get a lot of carries. They probably do need a starting level wide receiver, which is why they were interested in Marquez Valdez-Scantling to begin with. And Julio is a starting caliber wide receiver. As long as he can stay healthy for 17 games or 14, that would be great.
Yeah. If you can get him on a team friendly deal and expect him to do that kind of a thing, I think it'd be a good move. And I'm with you. If you can get Julio Jones on a team friendly deal, and then you get out there and you get into the draft and you bring somebody into the draft, one of these younger guys to maybe fill his role down the road, I think that's the best way. And
they need 2 more, right? They have 4 wide receivers on their depth chart.
Yeah, 4 that you would consider, NFL guys.
They need 2 more.
Yeah, you need 2 more, and so if it's Julio Jones or whatever, I think that's good. I think we might even see some changes to the offense with Trey Lance running the show.
Yes.
Maybe they're going to go to more 3 receiver type sets where you're using a receiver as that other tight end kind of role and stuff like that. So
I'd like to see that, because with Jimmy, it was all about constricting the field and creating this phone booth of effect. And with Lance, I think you're going to want to spread the field as much as possible, and he can do it with his legs, his arm, and you could do it with more wide receivers.
And I think that helps out if you want to run the zone read kind of stuff. I think it is almost better if you spread them out to open up those gaps up in the middle where the 49ers are strong. Charles, he gave a donation. Thanks, Charles. He agrees with you that he guarantees that Eddie D would be pulling the trigger on some big deals.
Now, someone pointed out, like when the Niners went all in 94, they had Steve Young in his prime. Not exactly Trey Lance making his first. So it was a little different. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Eddie D would agree that the best year to go all in is next year for the 49ers. Like, look at the Chargers. They're going all in this year. It's Herbert's 3rd year.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the Niners are looking at.
from a salary cap perspective, next year is a year where they should be going all in because they're going to have that ability to get cheap deals, explode it out because the cap's going up so high. And Lance you still have a couple of years on Lance. You've got everybody else kind of around him signed, including Nick Bosa, Debo, and that group. Fred Warner. If you look at Fred Warner's contract, next year's a year that you can extend him. You can redo his deal to buy down because next year's the first kind of high cap hit for Fred Warner on his contract. Mm-hmm. When you look at his contract, next year is the year that they can pull some of that salary out to extend him to bring that number down again a little bit and push it out as the cap goes up. I mean, there's lots of things that's the way that their salary structure is set up with their top guys. It's interesting. They can move around a lot. The only one that's scary is there's two that are scary: Trent Williams and George Kittle because of injuries and age.
So coming back to your previous question, do the Niners think they can win the Super Bowl with Trey Lance this year? Yeah, they think they can, but I think they're going to make their big push next year. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the league. They can, but I think they're thinking, let's stay in the mix this year, not be too aggressive. Everyone, look at 8 teams have gone on. Like half the league's all in right now. Maybe they think, let's get a season under Trey Lance's belt and go all in year 3 like Arizona did. Like the Chargers are right now. It seems to be kind of what a lot of teams do with these young quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that they that's kind of what they did this year, right? They did enough to keep themselves in the mix throughout 2021. They did just enough to get there. They probably should have won a couple more games, and they realistically they should have been in the Super Bowl if the quarterback just hits George Kittle on the first throw of the game.
Yep.
Right. I mean that probably changes the complexion of the game a lot.
Yes.
And so I think they feel like they can contend. And I think you're right. I think if they're still in that position, if they don't win it this year, even if they do, I think they go a little bit more balls out the next year to really, get after it in 2023 and 24.
And again, like the only drawback with this is like, as Vish said earlier on my channel, like, injuries happen. It's football. You're planning 2 years down the line. Good luck. But I guess when you have a quarterback who's 21 years old, you kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And then that Niner guy, he kind of is where you are. He says that they might think it, but I don't know how confident they are.
Yeah. I mean, they showed that when they're confident, when they're confident, they make confident moves. 2019, they really did the push the chip, stand up, take that. You know what I mean? Like, we're all in. Let's go. D4, Alexander. Like, they were really, really making a big stand. Now they're like, check. Check. Like, we're still in it, but we're definitely not making big moves at the table. It's interesting. Maybe it's a smart play. Maybe it's. I guess I just got my expectations up when they said they were interested in all these top guys. Like, oh snap, they're gonna. Oh wow! Like, no, next year. Okay, all right. I guess I should have known, right? That's their pattern.
Hey, it's the way that the NFL works, right? And the 49ers are always in on everybody. So then because of the fact that they're always talking to everybody and it gets reported, then everybody gets excited. And then when it doesn't happen, they're like, dummies, they don't know what they're doing.
Odom? I don't even know who that. What? Yeah, okay.
I don't know what you're talking. George Odom was an all-pro in 2020.
That's right. I should have known, man. I'm messing up.
I didn't know until I looked it up, and who follows the all pro special teams guys? Nobody does, but I think the moves they made there. HR says the decisions point to organizational conflict. Some of the decisions that they're making, and I think he's correct.
Yeah, there's not a clear. The way I look at it is like there is no clear leadership in the 49ers organization. There is no clear goal. The goal should be winning the Super Bowl, and the Niners' goal right now is to get the most possible for Jimmy Garoppolo. That is beside the point. In my opinion, this team is way beyond the 3rd or 2nd round pick that they're going to get from Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not even that good at drafting. It's not a 1st round pick. Who freaking cares? You guys should be beyond that. But they're thinking about that. And to me, that's like Eddie would step in and be like, guys, trade him right now. What are we doing? Trade him right now. But Jed's just like, go ahead, whatever, John. And John's he's obsessed with this, dude.
Yeah, well, and they don't want to, they don't want to look bad. They don't want to trade Garoppolo and look bad. They don't want to cut him and look bad. So that's why they're holding on to him. They're going to get something out of him. Who knows? And that's what
the irony is. I think if they accept the L on this battle, they win the war. If you just cut your losses with Jimmy Garoppolo, take the L, all of a sudden you help your team. And it's like someone needs to see the big picture here.
Yeah, I think that what can happen here is that if they just get rid of him, they're going to win the popularity contest with a group of people who are like, hey, we need to get rid of Garoppolo so we can whatever. There's a group of people that just want Garoppolo gone. They don't even care anything else. They just like say bye, yeah, right. And then come on, Grant, you really know that you want Garoppolo to come back.
It's true. You're right.
I do.
I do. I do.
I had that
I think I'm this close.
Night.
We're close, man.
Because if he comes back, you have like another 9 months of material. Really,
yes.
It's written for you.
No,
right?
No doubt. Let's do it. Quarterback controversy, quarterback competition. I love
it. Absolutely, and it's just I like Garoppolo. I hope he's the best, but I don't want to see him here next year. I want him gone. I want to see Trey Lance, and I'm in the same point as you though. That if he does come back, I'm going to laugh because it's going to.
Here's the thing: if Jimmy comes back this year. Starts, and then Trey's first year starting is next year, they're not going all in next year. They'll go all in 2024.
Yeah.
They're
just
going to keep. Come on. Can we start the Super Bowl window? You got Kittle now. In 2 years, he'll be 30. You have Kittle now. Everyone's saying he's still got something left in the tank. All right, then make a move. How much longer are you going to have Kittle? And it seems like these receivers who rely on speed don't do so well in their 30s.
Yeah, they don't usually. And also, Debo Samuel. Here's the thing with Debo Samuel. I really like him, but he's an injury waiting to happen. I know he made it through most of last year, but he's really an injury waiting to happen. So you're going to probably
like
give him
Kittle. And they're non-contact injuries. He's just like he starts running and goes down. It's like, what happened? Oh, your groin, your hamstring. Oh, you didn't stretch today. Like, what happened, man?
Yep.
What?
Yep. And going back to the Garoppolo thing really quick, the fans that want him to go are going to be happy. Then there'll be a group that's not. If the Flyers hold on to him and it seems like they win because they eventually trade somebody. Let's say they trade Garoppolo like 3 months from now because that's how long it takes for somebody to trade for him. If the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl with Trey Lance, it's going to be, you should have won the Super Bowl, but you didn't because you didn't sign the guys that you should have signed because you held on to Jimmy Garoppolo.
I would say that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. Yeah.
And so, I'm okay with where they are. I would have liked to have seen some additional movement. I feel like they've done what they've done for the most part throughout this regime's run, right?
Yes.
They for the most part they kind of play it safe, and usually what happens is we see them start to make moves around like this weekend, like 5 days into free agency. The big money guys go, and then they kind of come in and they get the guys at like that second level, aren't cheap, but they're also not the most expensive usually.
Right, because there's no bidding war on guys a weekend of free agency. So all of a sudden the teams have the leverage, and that's where Parag Marath does his magic. Marate, excuse me.
Marath.
He's like, it's signed in the first wave. Well, let me come in and tell you what you're worth to me. Yeah, he's. But I mean, hey, man, if they're at the George Odom level right now, are we really going to expect a bigger move in like a few days? Like what? Should we lower our expectations?
Well, here's the next thing that has to happen. I think is they're running out of cap space because we've only know of one contract, right? The only contract we know for sure is the contract for Ridgeway. That was $1.8 million off the cap. We haven't seen the numbers on these other guys. So the 49ers might be at a position where they're going to have to extend somebody. So I think really the next big move we're going to see is a Jimmy Ward extension or a Samson Ebicom extension, like one of those types of things, or maybe something with McGlinchey, because outside of that, the 49ers are starting to run out of cap space to make any kind of moves. So I think that's what we're going to see next is probably like a Ward extension if they feel like they want to bring him back, because that's the only way that they can go after and get these second tier guys that we're talking about.
Okay, let me ask you before we finish up. When is your prediction for when Jimmy Garoppolo will get moved? When will this end, Jack? I want to know.
I know.
I'm just curious. I'm not upset. I'm just genuinely curious. When's it going to end?
I don't know, because it feels to me like everything has to fall before Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be taken by somebody. It feels like it could. I could see a situation right now where we're doing this in late May, early June, because the shoulder injury, maybe even into July. Maybe a team's going to wait until July 1st or 2nd, 3rd, whatever. They're going to make him throw the ball a few times before they decide that they want to make a trade. That's why this $25 million, that's why it's getting to be frustrating for me, because you can see where it's really, it's going to stop them from getting guys in free agency. And they're going to have to do something anyway, because they've got to sign their rookies. They don't have the money to sign their rookies right now.
I know it's frustrating. Like Vish was really upset on my show today. He's really upset. He's a fan and he's frustrated by what's going on. I'm very amused. I think it's all very funny. So,
yeah,
I'm sorry, it's just making me laugh. Sorry, other fans.
No, I'm with you. It's funny because you see all this stuff. You see the people getting upset, and I mean, you know, the hard part is you see a guy like J.C. Jackson, for example, and he gets whatever the number is, and then you realize, even though it's a $16 million average, he's only getting paid $8 million this year against the cap. And the 49ers could have fit that in if they didn't have this quarterback over there. But the cap's going to go quick once they do move on from Garoppolo, because they've got to get their own guys signed in terms of their draft picks. And there's going to be a few other rookies. So I'm going to say we're going to come. We'll do by the time we do our show together on your channel
Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday. Probably maybe not this Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, Jimmy will be a Atlanta Falcon. How's that?
I like it. Will there be anyone left to spend the cap space on at that time?
there'll be
some people here and there, but again, they're making their push next year. So fine. Okay. It's just, I'm not used to teams going this slow. But you got to remember, John and Kyle have a lot, especially Kyle, like unprecedented job security. So they could say, next year, do it next year. There's no pressure on us. Like, fine. Every other team is like, we got to win right now. Really, how many teams are all in right now? 11? It's rough.
Like that.
It's rough.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, look what the Raiders have done. The Raiders have given themselves a really good football team with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams together, and some of these other moves that they've made. I mean, the Raiders really improved themselves.
All 4 teams in the AFC West are all in. Mm-hmm. The Ravens, who else? Not the Packers, the Rams, of course.
The Saints haven't done anything yet. The Dolphins have been very active.
The Bills. Got Von Miller. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Chargers, of course. The Chargers.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
the AFC West,
yeah. The AFC West has made it so that this looks like a very challenging year for the 49ers when it comes to their non-division games. That's for sure.
That being said, it seems like a good bet that the NFC Championship game is going to be them and the Rams again.
Yeah, I think there's a strong likelihood that that's where it comes down to. If Trey Lance is the guy and Trey Lance plays the way that we expect him to play, it's going to be down between the 49ers and the Rams. I'm excited to see the Trey Lance thing, and I know we were on different sides of that for a lot of the year. I felt like they were better going on, but once I saw him week 17 against Houston, the way that he turned that around after a little bit of a rough start. My tune changed on that one, and I feel like the miss to George Kittle in the first quarter, that doesn't happen if it's Trey Lance back there.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have as high of a completion percentage as Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense, but I think Kyle's going to get a feel for how he can use him, and just Kyle's intelligence and the abundance of talent on the offense and the abundance of talent that Trey Lance possesses is going to be pretty effective. It should probably be more effective than it was with Jimmy.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the efficiency drop a little bit, but the overall is probably going to be, in yards is going to be around the same. But I just feel like the 49ers are going to be a little bit better in the passing game in terms of some accuracy down the field that's going to pay off for them.
Yeah, and while they're it'll be 5% worse in completion percentage, they're going to have more explosive plays, and their explosive plays aren't going to be all Debo breaking 8 tackles. They're going to be Trey Lance running, Trey Lance throwing. It's just going to be a very explosive offense. Excited to see.
Yeah. And that might be what they're going to need, because they don't have Raheem Mostert. I don't know if they really have that explosive element in the running game unless you're forcing it with Debo Samuel, which you don't want to overdo. And so, yeah, if they get that
And
explosive element,
they may not be as good on third down, but if they get the explosive element, it could offset it.
Yeah, look at what go back to Kaepernick in 12 and 13, and that's who he was. He wasn't extremely efficient, but he was explosive plays, and that's why they got to the Super Bowl in 12 and almost got back there in 13.
And you got this explosive talent, Trey Lance, with his legs, his arm. You have explosive playmakers all around, not just one, not just two. And you have a coach who is one of the best in the world at creating explosive plays. Mm-hmm. And what you've seen is a plotting offense that's been sort of mediocre the last 5 years. I'm really excited. I'd like to see this because we've seen Kyle have explosive offenses in the past. He was never really going to do that with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not his game. The Patriots don't want to be explosive on offense. The Patriots have a dink and dunk ball control offense that Jimmy Garoppolo is perfect for. Kyle wants to go down the field. That's why he liked Kirk Cousins. I'm excited to see what this guy can do. He's better than Matt Schaub was. I mean, he's got a lot more physical gifts than Matt Ryan. It could be really fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be really good. And then really quick, he says, Celts Chronicles says, is Richburg still making? He is actually, because Richburg, I think when you look at the Friars dead cap, Richburg is the biggest one. He's like 5 million or something like that on the dead cap hit for this year.
Interesting. Maybe that's why the Niners aren't making big signings anymore, because D Ford, Weston Richburg, they're still paying people they don't want to pay. Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, I think their dead cap, the overall dead cap is better this year than it was last year, but still, yes, Richburg's still counting against their cap, I think 5 million. So
they used to always talk about Parag and his team friendly deals, but the last few years, these agents have been getting over on Parag. D Ford's still making money. Wow.
Yeah, the whole D Ford. I mean, D Ford helped them out in 2019, but it's been a disaster since 2019.
But it's okay because they won the Super Bowl that year.
Oh, why do you got to go there?
I'm so sorry, but it's okay because at least they got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo that year and got a first round pick for him, and then got Tom Brady won the Super Bowl the next year. Oh wait, they didn't do that either.
Look at this guy.
I'm sorry.
Who brought this guy on here anyway? Look at this guy.
So sorry. It's just crazy how close they've been, and they just haven't been able to take that one step. It's been 2 years. Wow.
Jimmy is that girl that you just can't say goodbye to.
I know. It's like constantly they're like texting them at 2 a.m, like, "Hey, you up?" Like, stop. Delete the number from your phone.
Delete the contact. You got to get rid of that one.
Yeah.
No, totally. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how this plays out, and then we get through the draft, and then we get to go back and watch the team get ready. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump over on my channel. Whoa, see, every time we do this happens, right?
Yep. That's pretty
funny. One more real quick. Well, Grant's busy eating his strawberry. Kajan's 25, thanks for the donation. He says, would you trade Debo to the Dolphins for Waddle and a high pick? Don't have it extend Debo, and Waddle is downfield threat and can do the end around.
No. Waddle's had a serious injury in his past. I don't know. No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm not high on extending Debo right now because of his injury history. That's the one concern that I have with Debo is that he's got this injury history, and I think it's going to take 23 to 25, maybe a little bit more million to get him on an extension right now, and it's a tough one. But
here's the thing about Debo. I'd like to see what he's like after he gets paid, because I don't think Kittle's been the same player. But it's not really that his effort isn't the same. It's his body broke down. Debo, to me, is a Jerry Rice level competitor. Yes. He's a Steve. He's got it. He almost single-handedly dragged the Niners to a Super Bowl just based on talent, and will, and competitiveness. And so I don't think you get rid of that. He's special. He's in that class of all-time Niners competitors.
Yeah, I don't think you trade him. It's not a trade. We talked about this earlier in the week on your show when we were talking about maybe Deshaun Watson coming here. It wasn't Debo that we talked about trading. It was Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk could be the guy that you trade, not Debo, because of the competitiveness, and he's the heart and soul of the team, really.
Yeah, I haven't seen that from Brandon. Brandon Ayuk's good, but I haven't seen Jerry Rice level competitiveness. I've seen that from Debo. It's clear that Debo's in that level. No question. That's why he should have been the MVP last year.
Absolutely. He definitely has. So we got to get going, everybody. Thank you for checking in. Grant, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
That was fun. And we'll be back on my channel on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll be back over on Grant's channel together on Tuesday. While you're all here real quick, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the little bell thing so that you know. And, Grant's
Nothing.
always been a big supporter of mine, but I want to just say, help get this channel up because I want to be able to do some more things down the road. And the more viewers we get over here, the better it'll be. So
Absolutely.
you guys could
subscribe to Jack. Jack's the man.
Let's do it.
And he's in Santa Clara. He's a real beat writer. He knows what he's doing.
I try to.
Yeah.
That's right. So have a great night. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Talk to you soon.